Hello, thank you for taking the time to watch the fiscal year 21 budget message. Before I begin, I would be remiss if I did not mention and reflect on the challenges that all of us faced in 2020. While nonpartisanship, integrity, respect, and honesty have always been the hallmarks of most individuals involved in local government, never before has it been more important for local officials to embrace these concepts during these precarious times. Now more than ever, local officials have to build confidence and trust among residents and businesses of our community. The unprecedented public health crisis caused by COVID-19, in addition to many other challenges that every resident faces, has required town officials to develop new strategies and policies while navigating through uncharted territory. Walpole will continue to adjust, adapt, and when necessary, pivot as we navigate through 2021. Despite all of the challenges faced over the past year, we continue to successfully manage our town. The budget that is being presented continues to allow the town to provide a wide range of services that residents expect. The Walpole Select Board, the Finance Committee, the School Committee, and other town officials will have extensive public discussion during the fiscal year 22 budget process throughout the remaining winter and spring months, and I am certain that adjustments will be made. The message I offer you today is one of assurance that Walpole will get through the pandemic. Despite all of the issues associated with 2020, Walpole continues to experience ongoing growth. Prior to providing an overview of the revenue and expenditures, I'd like to highlight some of the projects that are ongoing here in Walpole. The South Walpole Community Athletic Complex, located on Route 1A in South Walpole, is nearing completion. I am pleased to report that Youth League started using the synthetic turfs this past December, and I expect more use once the spring sports season gets underway. The new 18-acre complex includes 2 turf fields, 2 grass fields, a baseball diamond, a softball diamond, walking paths, and more than 250 parking spaces. I'd like to extend my gratitude to the Select Board for their leadership, town meeting for funding the project, the Department of Public Works and Recreation Department for making this vision a reality. Walpole has a long tradition of athletic excellence that stretches from youth sports to the high school, and this new complex will be a point of pride for the entire community for decades to come. Toward the latter half of 2020, the Select Board worked hard to ensure that Walpole was accepted into the Commonwealth's Green Communities Initiative. The acceptance is going to enable the town to meet the state's climate requirements and allow the town to pursue grant funding for years to come. The town continues to work with the Massachusetts School Building Authority to advance Walpole's application for a middle school project. The middle school project is presently in the feasibility phase. Just last week, the Walpole School Building Committee reached the important milestone of selecting a new combined middle school option at the current Bird Middle School site as a preferred option for grades 6 through 8. To finance this project, the school committee will be providing details to the community later on this year of the debt exclusion they will be organizing. Some of the major commercial and residential projects that are ongoing are listed on screen. One aspect of the community hit the hardest during the pandemic has been Walpole's small businesses. The private sector continues to adapt to the changing standards in response to fluctuations in active COVID-19 cases. Right from the onset of the pandemic, town departments and the community at large stepped up to show its support for Walpole's small businesses. The building department, for instance, accepted all applications for building permits online, and inspections started to take place remotely, so construction could continue as seamlessly as possible. The Community Development Department spearheaded a number of initiatives, and the Select Board voted to reduce the 2021 on-premise liquor renewals by 25% to further assist restaurants. Additionally, in one of Walpole's swiftest actions taken to support local businesses, I am pleased to report that this past spring, town meeting worked to make outdoor dining in Walpole a reality. Departments worked to streamline the approval process for outdoor dining. The Select Board agreed to waive fees and fast-track agreements, and the Department of Public Works secured the sidewalks and prepared the downtown to accommodate dining patrons and pedestrians. It is clear that outdoor dining in Walpole can be done safely and responsibly, and it's something that the people are interested in. Town meeting voted to enable outdoor dining and entertainment via the limited site plan review going forward, an important step to making the approval process more efficient and responsive for town departments and applicants alike. The proposed FY22 budget relies on revenue estimates based on the latest information available at this time. Despite the economic and financial uncertainty, the budget that is being presented does not depend on the use of one-time revenues or reserves in the balancing process. The overall general fund budget increase is 4.5%. The primary source of revenue for Walpole is the property tax levy. The total amount anticipated to be raised from the tax levy for fiscal year 2022 is $81.8 million. Just last week, Governor Baker filed his House 1 budget, which recommends a significant increase to local aid over what Walpole budgeted in fiscal year 21. However, this budget is still a long way to go through the legislative budget process. If reductions are made by the legislature during deliberations this spring, this office will work with the Finance Committee to make the necessary changes that may be required. The amount requested for appropriation for fiscal year 22 totals just over $100 million. At the start of this year's budget process, DPW Director Matson approached this office to present a labor sharing proposal for the Parks and Highway departments. The Director Matson proposed adding 2 new full-time employees to complement staffing levels in 2 of the departments. This concept will allow the director and superintendents to allocate the resources between the 2 departments as seasonal workloads dictate. The budget that is being presented funds both of these positions that have been requested. Our public safety departments are contending with an increase in calls for service. The fire department finished 2020 with just over 7,000 calls for service, of which 3,600 were emergency responses. This represents an increase of 26% in emergency responses since 2012. The fire department budget will increase by $296,000 or just about 6%. The pandemic forced Chief Bailey to split the firefighters between 2 stations to provide for additional social distancing. As residents may expect, this decision helped to provide improved response times at East Walpole and assist with increased call volume for the fire department. As I previously mentioned, there were several large projects on the horizon that will place additional demands on the needs of the department. The recommended fire department budget adds 1 new firefighter for the department and 1 new day position as a full-time fire prevention officer. The new fire prevention officer will be responsible for assisting the deputy chief. On the police side, just last year, 22,000 incidents were reported and investigated by the police department. The Walpole Police Department budget will increase by $400,000 or just about 7%. I am pleased to report that the recommended budget fully funds 3 new police officer positions. Once those positions are filled, Walpole will have 47 sworn officers. I commend the dispatchers, police officers, and firefighters for their daily efforts and protection. Chief Bailey and Chief Carmichael have done an excellent job leading their departments throughout the pandemic. Last month, I received a retirement notice from longtime Animal Control Officer John Splain. Given John's many years of service to the town, this will not be an easy position to fill. In the spirit of regional collaboration, I'm pleased to report that I'm in the process of developing an agreement with the town of Norwood to share animal control services. Public education continues to be one of Walpole's top priorities. This year, the total public education line is recommended to be $50.5 million. Tri-County Regional Vocational School recently advised the town that Walpole will see a substantial increase in its assessment. I continue to grow concerned about the increasing demands that Tri-County assesses on local resources, often with little input from member communities. Last year, Walpole's contribution increased by 24%, and this year the contribution is set to increase by 35%. I urge Walpole's representatives on the Tri-County School Committee to explore how the district can ease back on the considerable increases over the last few years. The Walpole School Committee recently voted on a total budget request of $49.3 million, which represents a 5.3% increase over fiscal year 21. The recommended budget for the Walpole Public School Department stands at just over $49 million, which is a 4.6% increase over FY21. I am confident that we can work with school officials to bridge the $300,000 gap in some way over the next few months. I would be remiss if I did not recognize School Superintendent Bridget Goff and School Business Manager Mike Frischel for their innovative maneuvering leading up to the 2021 school year. The unprecedented public health crisis caused by COVID-19 has required town officials to develop new strategies and policies while navigating through uncharted territory. In March, the Board of Health and their staff stepped up and immediately assumed a leadership role in town government. The Board of Health met weekly and assisted Health Director Melissa Ranieri whenever necessary. I am pleased to report that with the Health Department's assistance, vaccines have been administered to the town's first responders. Beginning the week of February 8th, the Health Department will be holding vaccine clinics twice a week at the South Street Center. Online setups for these clinics are accessible on the town's website. Director Ranieri, Town Nurse Trish Fisher, Deputy Director Rika Surratt, Clerk Jen Norton have done an excellent job and have gone above and beyond over the last 11 months. I am proud of the efforts of each and every member of the Walpole Board of Health during the pandemic. The debt budget provides for payment of principal and interest costs for long and short-term borrowing needs. Walpole currently has a AA+ rating, one grade below the highest rating of AAA. The FY22 debt budget is just over $4.1 million, which is level funded from the current fiscal year. Our debt level is moderate and manageable. We continue to work to ensure that the town is maximizing the market when it comes to interest rates and borrowing. The town has recently realized significant savings for our taxpayers when the town's financial team decided last year to wait to borrow long-term on the town's fields project. Instead of locking up a long-term rate in an uncertain market, the finance team decided to issue a short-term borrowing note for 1 year and go out to bond in 2021 to lock up a much reduced long-term rate for the fields complex. This decision has paid off and interest rates have declined since last year. This decision is going to have long-term positive impacts on Walpole's debt plan for years to come and assist the town's long-term goals, which include improving the infrastructure of the town without the need for debt exclusions. Assessments and fringe benefits portion of the budget, which consist of other post-employment benefits, retirement, unemployment, insurance, is budgeted at 4% at this time. The budgeted OPEB contribution has increased by $100,000 in FY22. This recommendation maintains our ongoing commitment to funding the town's OPEB liability. From 2014, the town has increased the OPEB budget from $1 million to $5.5 million today. We continue to add to our financial reserves and maintain a solid AA+ bond rating for the town. The fiscal year 22 budget maintains $460,000 in the reserve fund, which will allow town officials to address any unforeseen and extraordinary shortfalls if necessary. The undesignated fund balance, informally known as free cash, was certified at $5.7 million. Fall town meeting appropriated $4.8 million from free cash for a variety of items. $912,000 of the certified free cash funds was not appropriated last fall and will be available if necessary in the future. Since 2014, the town stabilization fund has grown from $1.8 million to $8.3 million. Since becoming the town administrator, I've tried to place up to 10% of the town's operating budget in the stabilization fund to ensure that the town maintains a high bond rating and is able to address any shortfalls that may come up. The capital budget request last fall exceeded $5.6 million. Town meeting voted to fund more than $3 million in requests. I commend the Capital Budget Committee for their efforts in overseeing the capital budget process. The recommended Water Enterprise Fund budget is just over $5.7 million, and the current water retained earnings balance is $2.2 million. The recommended sewer enterprise fund budget is $5.3 million, and the current retained earnings balance is $2.1 million. At this time, there are currently 20 articles that are set to be considered at the spring town meeting. A detailed description of the proposed articles will be available on the town's website after the select board signs and publishes the warrant. In conclusion, I leave you with this. 2021 is going to be a challenging year as we grapple with the financial and socio-economic impacts of COVID-19, and we work to vaccinate everyone. Over the next few months leading up to town meeting, I look forward to working with town officials, residents, and business leaders for inspiration, ideas, advice, and resources as to how we can approach the challenges ahead of us. The fiscal year 22 budget is balanced and ready for the Finance Committee review. For more information relating to the budget message, please visit the town's website. Thank you for taking the time to watch this message. Be safe, everyone.